Machine we're looking at today, if you wondered what an extruder is, this is an extruder, a giant garlic press that you load up with clay, put in dies that shape the clay as it is pushed out in ribbons through the bottom. Ribbons can be in any shape that the die can be made into, including hollow tubing and many other things. They're a great machine to have in the studio, and this one is purchased off of Amazon for $109, relatively cheap as far as extruders go. So we're going to take a look at this extruder today, and we're going to see if it's any darn good.
Hey, I'm Jeff Patterson. Welcome to my channel. This is an extruder that I bought off of Amazon, and I think it's probably worth buying. But we're going to go through what I don't like about it and what you're going to need to do to it in order to make it work. And we're also going to look at the things that I think I would do just to make it a more comfortable unit to operate. So let's first examine what it is. It's a completely stainless steel extruder. Stainless steel is not magnetic, and so this thing has some magnetism to it, but very, very little, which indicates that it's a cheap grade of stainless steel, which will probably do just fine for what we're doing. The reason we like stainless is if, in case you want to extrude porcelain or even porcelaneous white clay, then you aren't getting little bits of rust in your extrusions to pop out through your glazes later on. The quality of craftsmanship on this is nowhere near the American-made brand that this is knocking off. But that being said, I just checked the price on that on Amazon, and it's about $836 for this extruder, American made. So if you're just starting out, or even if you're not, even if you just need a small extruder with this capacity, then this is probably a pretty good bargain. I would have bought this back when I was in college, when I bought my expensive one. I used to own this extruder. One of the things I like about this extruder is that the barrel is square, so you can cut nice, easy square plugs to feed your barrel out of a bag of clay, instead of, you know, rolling things into balls or cylinders and getting them into a cylindrical barrel. The quality of the welds on this, for the most part, are decent. You have, let me turn this around so you can see it in this camera. You have this bar that acts as a hinge for the arm, and the welds here on that bar are pretty good. This end cap is welded on to give the structural strength to the channel, and there's a tang here that you can see, and the welds on the tang are pretty good too, so that's all going to hold up. When we're coming back here and we're looking at the plunger mechanism, the plunger has welds on 2 sides. I would prefer it to have welds on 4. That might be something you handle later on if you're getting some welding done, or when you're getting some welding done. And the plunger mechanism itself, the plastic on it, it's not countersunk, so you've got trapped clay underneath there. I've countersink mine, and I fill the little receiver holes for the screwdriver with something like epoxy, or even clay if you're using a standard clay and you're not mixing colors. But I don't like to have lots of little bits of dry clay dropping off into my extrusions. I would prefer to see, this is one of the dies, I would prefer to see this be the thickness of the die, and so maybe we'll swap that out later on. The welds going down the sides of the barrel, there are 3 spots here. Those should be more than adequate in order to hold the barrel on against the pressure that you're pushing down with the lever arm. But these little units, these welds are not very impressive. They're just spot welded on the top of the bottom. And they aren't going to hold up. They need to be welded down the side. So that's one of the expenses I see on this machine, is that you're going to have to go to somebody who can weld stainless steel or braze stainless steel. Brazing may be cheaper, but those are going to need to get touched up. And the same thing is happening on this. There's no real positive welds on that. Those little end welds there aren't going to do the job. And so you're going to have to find somebody to weld it on the sides and firm that up. These are the mechanism that you attach this square die holder onto the bottom of your extruder. This is a die, so this would get put in here and then clamped in place like so. And then the stainless steel bolt comes up here and threads into this. I like the fact that it threads, that you're not trying to manipulate washers and bolts. But what I don't like is that this die is just about the same size as the die holder. And what the reason for that is so that the bolts can get past it. And if it's sticking out a quarter of an inch, making it easier to hold underneath the die holder, then the bolts can't go through. So what I would recommend doing is, and what I do with all my extruders, is I make my own dies, and I make them out of cutting board material from Walmart. And very often we will use the cutting board before I get to cut it up for a couple of years, so we have a nice fresh cutting board. So what I would do is I would make dies that are a bit larger than the die that we have now, and I would make them so they have a notch on either side like that, so that when you put them in the die holder, they stick out of the edges so that they're easier to manipulate, but so you still have room for your bolts to go through. And I think that would work really well. And there's another little bit of kit that you're going to need, which is a piece of metal that looks like this. And you'll build your dies in this at the same time, so it registers better than my little example here. But this goes inside and blocks the other holes and allows this hole to be open and free and for the extrusion to happen. Otherwise, you're extruding all four holes at the same time. So that's another little bit that you're going to need. And to show you what that looks like on my extruder's round. I have this old aluminum washer, and I have a four extrusion die here. So teapot handles and mug handles and two different coils, and I can block those off with this inside the die. Now when the clay comes down, it's not feeding the other holes, it's only feeding this hole. And I can move this around and select the extrusion that I want at any given time. So we're also going to be looking at dies. So we're going to make some dies for this thing, and these dies that you see over here, these are spider dies. And a spider is, multi-legged critter that runs along like so, and that's why you call this, because it has two legs. Sometimes they have four. I found that for most of my work, I only need two. And they suspend this circular disc inside the hole, and so the clay travels around both sides of that and allows us to make tubes. And these particular tubes are guitar slides in different sizes for different fingers. So here's a full-size multi-fingered, and then a cigar box guitar slide, and so then this one is a much smaller one. And it's nice sometimes not to have them be flopping around on your fingers, so that you have the amount of control that you need when you're working these jobs on a guitar. So I'm going to do a lesson for you on how to make spider die tubes, but also so you can get your configuration on the right size for these as well. It's not that those aren't going to get you someplace when you first start out, and you can load that in there. It's just inconvenient. So these are my dies for my Cigar Boss guitars. They come in two sizes, and one's bigger than the other, and they're adjusted for shrinkage, which is something you're going to have to do. And I have a shrinkage in It's Clear as Mud, my pottery channel. I have a shrinkage lesson, so you can understand how to gauge shrinkage, because it's going to depend on the clay that you're using and where you're buying your clay and what temperature you're firing at and all that stuff. And so this is the die that I use for my teapot spouts, and that die's been a real good die for me. I really enjoy it. And then I've got, you know, like this is my main one for my different types of handles and some columns of clay or coils of clay. So all in all, I think this is probably a really good buy. I'm relatively impressed with the quality, except for the few things that I'm concerned about. Mostly the sanding of the edges and the rewelding of the little tubes on the sides of the die holder. But that's not a big deal for anybody with a TIG welder, or they could be brazed. So that's relatively easy to do. I paid $109 for this, with $25 in shipping, and it arrived well and well packaged with lots of styrofoam in just a couple of days. And so I will leave a link to this in my description in case you guys want to order one up and follow along with the die process. One other thing, it comes with a wrench to tighten the die holder, and it comes with 3 Molly style bolts that fit in to into the back of it. I'm going to show you, we're going to mount this in the studio, and I'm going to show you how I would mount it. I would not use these Molly bolts. They will not hold this thing into a wall, and I know that from experience. So we're going to mount it differently. We'll mount it on a piece of plywood screwed into the wall and bolted through the piece of plywood between 2 studs, and that will give us what we need in order to have this thing be safe and be secure on the wall.
Okay, this is simply mounted. We screwed a piece of plywood into the wall, into the studs that are up 2 feet apart here, after bolting this onto a 1/2-inch piece of plywood. There's the metal shield I made to sequester the hole that we want to extrude through while eliminating the other holes. Fairly simple little machine to make with a saber saw. And now we're going to bolt the die keeper on. It goes in a specific direction. You can see that the flush ends of the dies are on the bottom, and you need to have those down so that the bolts don't jam up inside there. You can't tighten it if it's the other way around. A little design flaw. They could have put the tubing all the way, spanning the entire die holder, but they didn't. So we're going to bolt the die holder on first. Now, this is a method that you wouldn't be able to do with my dies. You'd have to put the die in there and then bolt it up. But this way, with these small dies, you can put your die holder in place and then slide your die in and then tighten it up. And then what you do is you drop the metal part in from the top. When we drop the clay in, the metal part's already in there, sequestering only 1 hole. Plunger goes down, minimal amount of pressure, nice clay, and wango bango. There's about a 1/2-inch coil, just that fast. Now, this is real time. I'm showing you real time extrusion here, not a lot of editing in this. I'm just doing it, and we're pushing them through. So you can really make some headway. I extruded a lot of stuff and put it in a got cooler. I'd only extrude once or twice a year on certain things and layer it between damp newspaper and a 32-quart, camping cooler, and it kept it fresh, and I could use it for a year. So there we go. Great quality dies on this, nice and smooth. And I'm very impressed with the machining on the plastic of the dies, although I still think I'm going to make dies that stick out. But here we go. We can take a look at a little bit of the quality of the dies. of the extrusions. The clay was well wedged. It was wedged clay, not too many bubbles in there, but smooth extrusions, easy, fast, as good an extruder as I've used, basically, same as every extruder that I've used. Nice stuff. Nice work. Hi, thanks for taking the time to watch this vid on this extruder. As a potter, it's a great instrument to have. I put myself through college with this extruder, one that was very similar to it, making whistles. And so it's a useful tool. It's not the end all, but I really do like extruded handles, and I like extruded spouts in my teapots. I extrude beads. I've extruded all sorts of stuff. So I hope this has been helpful to you. The second half of this is going to be making a spider die. And I'm sharing this video with my other YouTube channel, which is about making these guitars that you see behind me, and also guitar slides like this. So if you're a potter and you're looking for a nice product, this might be the product for you. Easy to produce, inexpensive, and a fairly good profit margin. Lots of people out there who like to play with ceramic slides. They have a great sound to them. So if you will follow along, what I would suggest you do is you go over to my guitar channel, which is Jeffrey R. Patterson, and just my name, and hit the bell there so that you're notified when the videos are coming up, because I'm going to do a premiere on making dies and making tubes and turning them into cigar box slides. And I want to do it as a premiere so that I can be there and we can chat and people can ask me questions. It seems like a reasonable thing to do. So if you're interested in coming aboard and asking questions and picking my brains while you're watching the video, I'd be more than happy to accommodate that. Now, that's not the end all, because premieres get published, so if you miss the premiere, you can still come back anytime and check it off, because they get published and you'll get an opportunity to look at it. So I will put out a notification on my YouTube channels, both channels, when the premiere is coming. Thanks much. Bye-bye.